Welcome back. I hope you had a moment to think about why you want to fall from a perfectly good airplane. You don't need to know what your why is right now, but certainly consider it, as it is an important tool to evaluating your risk to reward ratio. In the second and final section of the pre-class lecture, we'll cover the potential results of being in a state of fear, how the body and mind react to high-stress situations, as well as how they react to one another. Ultimately, we're looking for a methodology that can sustain us in a high-stress situation and produce peak performance. We've all been afraid at some point in our lives, whether it was an event for which we prepared or a situation that was sprung on us without notice. Prime examples are astronauts who prepare for years to travel into space. This preparation is a long-term exposure to high-stress situations, while intentionally going to a haunted house will cause short-term and immediate high stress. What happens when we are afraid? The body and mind kick into a self-preservation process that is hardwired into us from caveman days. This process is called the fight or flight syndrome, and it's based on the sympathetic nervous system. Imagine, if you will, you're in the jungle picking berries and nuts to take back to your cave family when along walks a saber-toothed tiger. You have choices that are ingrained in you to help you survive the situation. There are 4 F's that help us survive. Fight. Maybe you're good enough to defeat the tiger. Flight. Maybe you're more agile than the tiger and you can evade the attack. A seldom discussed option is freeze. If neither of the first 2 options are feasible, the brain locks up and sends us into a statuesque position to blend into our surroundings until the danger passes. And the rarely discussed 4th F we'll discuss in a moment. The fight or flight syndrome helps us survive in the face of extreme stress situations. Many things can happen within the body at the first perceived notion of danger. This perceived notion can originate from the brain, in the case where it recognizes a potential threat, or in the body, in the case where a perceived threat is upon you before the brain has a chance to see it coming. No matter where the threat originally is perceived, the body and the brain are now interlocked in a dance with each other to help you survive the next few moments. Let's take a look at some of the things that can happen as a result of high-stress situations. First is detection. Then comes activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Key indicators include such things as pupil dilation. The pupils open to gain as much light as possible. The brain needs to evaluate as much of the danger as it can see, even into the furthest reaches of the darkest corners. While the brain may demand more information, it also blocks out up to 17% of your functional vision to prevent overload of information. This is why multiple people can be interviewed about a traffic accident and see completely different aspects, and even some of the aspects are in conflict with each other. Your hands and feet get cold. Cortisol is dumped into the bloodstream from the adrenal glands to constrict the capillaries at your extremities. If I have to fight, I don't want my hands to be bleeding. I need all the blood I have to survive. If I have to run, I don't want my feet bleeding. I could leave a trail for predators to follow. This is what we call cold feet when we get nervous. Your stomach becomes uncomfortable, and we get what we call butterflies. This is the body shutting down digestion. That also includes defecation, urination, and regurgitation. While your digestive system runs 24 hours a day, in this moment, we need to conserve as much energy as possible so the body cuts power to those systems and redirects it to things that will help us survive. While the adrenal glands produce cortisol, they also produce a liquid gold of sorts called adrenaline. We all have experienced an adrenaline rush at some point in our lives, and most of us decided we kind of like the sensation it provides. But what does that really do for us? It makes us super fast, super strong, and it gives our body a turbocharge for a brief moment. As much as we would like to prolong this effect, it typically only lasts for at most 25 seconds. So once again, you see that the body and the brain are working together to simply get you out of the situation as quickly as possible. Glycogen is converted into glucose, or a more simple term, sugar. It's dumped into the bloodstream to allow the nerves a quick start and a quick reaction to the high-stress situation. This will help us act quicker to dodge incoming attacks or to make quicker moves while running. The blood pressure rises and creates red face and ears. This is the universal sign to beware, as I am agitated and I can cause you harm. It also produces high pressure pump to assure that the heart gets blood to all of the vital organs, your brain, and your muscles. Lastly, the heart rate and the breathing increase rapidly to assist the brain and the muscles in doing a better job during this brief moment of stress. The entire time, the mind and the body are communicating, adjusting, evaluating the situation as it progresses or changes. They are working quickly to get us through and get us through safely. Sure, this is all great to know, but why are we learning about physiology in skydiving class? Because it will all happen to you on jump day. How you choose to manage this process will produce a great or poor result. How do we manage a process that is ingrained in us from birth, something that happens automatically? Our brains function on a singular thought process. It could be emotional or it could be logical, but we're unable to do both at the exact same time. We must operate in the safest frame of mind possible. Is that the logical mind or the emotional mind? Where have you made the best decisions before now? Logical, of course. We understand now that our emotions are a result from our environmental stimulus. If our brain and body react to one another during the fight or flight process, the result can cause a feedback loop. It's our job to assure that we stop it before it gets out of control. Let's assume there's a high-stress situation. I think a great example would be simply to say that you're about to jump out of a plane for the first time. That situation may be stressful because your brain is engaged and you're aware of the events that are unfolding. This tells the body to be on the alert and the fight or flight process begins. We have a situation that leads to a physical reaction. The physical reaction then creates a psychological reaction, and we receive it as a stimulus from our environment. Let's call it fear. Without any logical reaction, the emotional reaction will then compound upon the original physical reaction to the situation. This creates a greater physiological reaction and a stronger emotional response. And around it goes until we find ourselves completely out of control. Have you ever seen a small child in the mall or the grocery store who's screaming and throwing a fit? They cry so hard that they lose the ability to even breathe, the basis for our survival in itself. This is that process out of control. It's like a train running downhill with no brakes. It's not going to get any better, and there can't be anything good waiting for us at the end of the tracks. So then how do we resolve it? Remember all the steps that occur during the fight or flight process? Which of those can we change? Can you constrict your pupils? Can you open your capillaries? Can you turn your digestion back on? Can you put the adrenaline back? Can you slow your heart rate? Can you change your breathing? And there it is, the weak link in the chain. What happens when we slow our breathing? We force our body and mind to be calm. When we slow our breathing, we slow our heart rate. We have a way to control the fight or flight process. It's the missing fourth F. Focus. It's the only logical F in the entire process. What's important is that we must be on the lookout for anything that indicates that the process is underway, and we must immediately shift our focus to our breathing. Reduce the heart rate, and everything else will follow, including the brain. Instead of an emotional response to our environment, we simply substitute it with a logical response. Recognize the process, acknowledge it, and focus on breathing slower and deeper. Feel your heart slow down and your blood pressure ease. Consider your situation, evaluate the safe and logical path, and then this is where we act in spite of how we feel. It never means that you're not afraid. It simply means that you are now in control of your actions. This is how those of us who are afraid can still perform at the highest levels. Actions don't have to be dictated by how you feel. I can't emphasize this enough. It is okay to be afraid. It's not okay to act afraid. So then how can we train and practice in this state of mind? What components can promote peak performance? The following 5 steps are used by some of the best athletes and special force operators. These steps can be applied to anything, from a job interview to sports and even skydiving. I highly encourage you to take this portion very seriously, as these steps are proven over and over again to be critical to peak performance and goal achievement. Education. Learn as much as you can about the activity or event. If it's a job interview, do your research on the company before you arrive. If you're running a marathon, know the course and where it turns, where it goes up, where the refreshment stations are. If it's skydiving, pay close attention in this class and ask questions. Practice for perfection. Every practice should be perfect. Don't expect to learn something new immediately. It will take a few tries to get it right. When you realize you've made a mistake, stop there, start over from the beginning, or the best starting point for that action. Do not continue to repeat the failure. Build on it to be better on the next attempt. Do it perfectly until it's a natural action. Mistakes that you make here are 10 times worse when you're under stress. Do it until it's perfect, and then do it some more. Positive self-talk. There's 2 types of people: those who believe they can do anything and those who believe that they can't. I agree with both groups. If you believe you can't skydive, I'll make sure that you don't. Remember that the limits of your abilities are only an illusion. Neither I nor the instructors you'll be jumping with were born skydivers. We had to learn one step at a time. We had to believe that we could be better than we were on the last skydive. We believe in you. You need to believe in you like we do. Positive and perfect visualization. See yourself doing the activity in your mind's eye. See it perfectly. See it in slow motion. If you make a mistake, even while you're visualizing the activity, stop, start over. Do it perfectly. By doing this simple activity, we create a synaptic pathway that becomes natural for us when we perform them physically. The learned physical activity becomes much easier to perform and also becomes very natural for us to perform. And lastly, create small tasks. There is no way you can do this entire skydive all at once. It's simply impossible to perform all actions simultaneously. So let's begin with the first task. When you complete it, we move on to the next. In the corporate world, we call this eating the elephant. Do you think you can eat an elephant? Well, you can. It's just one bite at a time. You can't eat the whole thing at once, but in small bites or small tasks, you can accomplish this huge activity. And here we are. You've almost completed the first task. You've watched both videos and you've taken a quiz. Make sure to take your second quiz, and we're very excited to see you guys in person in class. Your next quiz is available on Carmen. Please make sure to begin the OSU Pre-Class Video Quiz Part 2. You'll need to use the access code PCVQ2.